This is gonna be an end range strength drill for hip internal rotation. The goal of this exercise is to build your strength in that end range of motion. This is gonna be in the 90-90 position, which is the position that I'm in now. If you are somebody who doesn't have great hip mobility to start, this may be too progressive a position for you. One modification that you can make if you feel like you're being shoved over and this is really uncomfortable, you feel your adductors are super tight and you also might feel some pinching in the side of your hip, in your spine, or in your groin, is to grab a yoga block and put it right under your butt cheek. So now we are elevated off the ground. If that helped, cool, you can use this modification. If not, you're probably going to want to find a different position, like a more elevated position. So you're gonna want to do that instead. This exercise is not a great position for you. From there, we are going to start in our passive range of motion. So what that looks like is finding our end range hip internal rotation, sinking our butt cheeks, so we're working on the left leg here, towards the ground. Sink that butt cheek towards the ground and think about winding into that hip because we are really internally rotating at the ball and socket joint. So the thigh is kind of rotating forward, but our butt is sinking back, so we're getting that rotational movement. You should feel a little stretch on the outside here, no groin pinching or pain here. Avoid that. From here, we want to find the muscles that are gonna do the movement. So for purposes of, if you aren't familiar with your body and don't know what those muscles are, you can come out of it. You can try to do the movement here where you can now feel that your thigh is rotating up, you're internally rotating your hip, and you're feeling all of this stuff work. If you're familiar with those, so then we're gonna find that end range, that passive range of motion. We're gonna try to do that movement, find those muscles. We're gonna slowly come out of that movement, but we're trying to bring our foot with us because we're trying to internally rotate until we can get it just a little bit off the ground. We pause there, we hold for the prescribed amount of time, 3 to 5 seconds. Then we try to rotate back into it without dropping the foot. Your foot's gonna drop because you don't have the strength yet, but you wanna fight it the whole time. You are probably gonna feel some cramping in your glute. That's totally fine. It just means you don't have strength and control in this position. That'll go away or minimize as you progress with these. That's a sign of progression. So work through it a little bit, but don't push into it to the point where you're falling over because it's so painful. So one more time, we wanna find that end range position. Try to lift your foot up, rotate that thigh up, come out of the movement a little bit, as much as you need to get that ankle off the ground. Pause, hold, try to rotate back into that end range position, trying not to let your ankle lift. Trying not to let your ankle drop. You're trying to lift your ankle actively the whole time, and then you relax and reset. You're gonna perform that for the prescribed amount of reps. It is very, very common to fatigue quickly with these, so you may notice you have to lean further and further to get your ankle up, and it falls back faster. That's totally fine throughout your reps. You're gonna look for signs of progress of that happening less and less as you do this on a week-to-week basis. What we wanna make sure we avoid is hiking our hip. So as you're going into this, we wanna make sure that when we're trying to rotate our leg forward in the internal rotation, we are also not involving our spine because the goal of this is to train your hip internal rotation. Adding spine work means we're no longer doing that, or that is not the goal of the exercise anymore. So try to avoid that. Also try to avoid this type of a movement where you're trying to rotate your knee just to get it off. We don't want this to be super quick. We really wanna find those muscles, squeeze them, control the motion as much as possible, and really control it all the way down as well. So make sure that you are really doing all of these things and you'll get the most out of the exercise.